समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Do you feel sorry for Sri Sri Ravi Shankar? I mean, the man has gone from being the guru to the rich. He's so modest that his own Twitter handle is Gurudev. He's gone from all of that to becoming essentially a punchline on Twitter. Every time the rupee falls even further against the dollar, people dig out Ravi Shankar's tweet. Ravi Shankar said, and here I'm quoting from memory, "It is refreshing to know that if Modi becomes prime minister, the rupee will be rupees 40 to the dollar." Now, he tweeted this thoughtfully a few months before Modi actually came to power and the rupee began to collapse. But he tweeted this at a time when most people thought Modi would be elected. So it was probably a bit of misplaced chamchagiri, but he's going to have to live with that. And as for do I feel sorry for him or do you feel sorry for him? No, I don't think any of us does. He deserves it. But why pick on Double Shri alone? What about all the other people? In the last days of UPA, when the rupee had fallen, not dramatically, but had fallen, everybody you saw on Twitter who was famous or wanted to suck up to the coming establishment would tweet sneering things. This is a list that went all the way from Ritesh Deshmukh up to Amitabh Bachchan. All of them made fun of how much the rupee had fallen. And the anticipation was that once the government changed, it would be fine. The rupee would be 40 to the dollar or whatever. As we know, the rupee is shortly going to reach 100 to the dollar. Contrary to what these guys thought and claimed, the rupee has actually done incredibly badly under this government. Now, in the long run, if you look back, all these guys, none of whom was tweeting, by the way, about the rupee where it's collapsing truly, all of these guys have done Narendra Modi a disservice because what they suggested was that the economic health of the government was connected to the value of the rupee. In fact, it's a bit more complicated than that. Even in the days when Mr. Modi told us the economy was doing really well, the rupee was still declining against the dollar, and not everyone thought that a limited decline was a bad thing. But now I think people are worried. The Prime Minister certainly seems worried. In an address in Hyderabad, he told people that it was a time for austerity. He asked people to work from home. He said to cut on foreign expenditures. He said you should cancel foreign trips. There are enough places to go to in India. He said avoid foreign weddings, don't buy gold, and so on and so forth. Now, some of this was, I thought, perfectly sensible. Why buy gold when you can buy productive assets, when you can invest in the future of the country? There are many places to go to in India, and we shouldn't have big weddings of any kind in India or abroad. It's now got to a stage that's frankly vulgar, revolting, and quite disgusting. So, yes, I think he was right on some of the things he said. But here's the issue: no prime minister makes a speech like this when we are optimistic. You make speeches like this when you think a crisis is on the horizon. And perhaps a crisis is on the horizon. Let's start with the rupee, which is the most significant sign of what's happening. No, sinking rupee is not a sign of catastrophe on its own, but it does have many effects. Among them, of course, is the one he referred to, that it becomes almost impossible for people to go abroad. And that's fine because it serves as a cess on foreign travel, because if you go abroad, you feel even poorer than you usually did. But it has another effect, and that is that foreigners who invest in India worry about the returns they'll get. If you take a stable currency like a dollar, a relatively stable currency, and invest it in India, your returns will come in a sinking currency. So, what should be, say, a 10% return may actually not amount to more than 1% or so in real currencies or hard currencies because the rupee has lost its value. That's one of our problems. People are not investing in India. For the first time in a long time, net FDI, that's foreign direct investment in India, is negative. More money is going out than is coming in. It gets worse because you can say maybe that's not just because of the rupee, and it's not. It gets worse because even domestic investment is at an all time low. Indian industry, Indian entrepreneurs, small and medium sized enterprises, which were often the key, are no longer investing the way they would. That is the crisis in the economy. Why are people doing this? I mean, part of it is the rupee, but part of it is simply policies. There's been a lot of talk since 2017 when we changed the rules for direct investment in India. People saying, don't do this, you'll put off foreign investors. And yes, foreign investors have been put off. We've seen the results ourselves. There's been a problem also with the stock market, which is languishing. Why does the stock market languish? Well, it languishes for many reasons. One of which is if foreigners don't put money into the stock market, you are not used to the same inflows that you were some years ago. And why are foreigners not putting money into the market? Well, there are many reasons, but here's one key reason. When they changed the capital gain structure, people said, don't do this, it'll affect investment. They did it anyhow. So you've got certain measures that the government has done which have led directly to this crisis. This is not my view, this is the view of many economists. It's been pointed out all the time. Change the rules for foreign direct investment. Don't do anything to deter people from making capital gains in the stock market, or at least do it differently. But the government hasn't listened. And now we are in this situation. Now, I don't suppose the government is stupid. There are very great economists working there. So probably they have an answer as to why they've not implemented these suggestions, which may seem obvious to you and me. But there's another factor, which is that one reason why people don't invest, why they don't create more capacity, why they don't build more industries, is because they are less optimistic or not optimistic at all about the future. If you believe that the economy is going to the toilet, if you believe that there's nothing to be gained by producing more, there's nothing to be gained by launching new products because the market will not be able to bear them or will not be able to reward you sufficiently, then people don't invest. It's pretty much the same thing with the stock market. If you have, say, a lakh of rupees and you put it in the stock market, you expect that within what, a year or so, you'll have a lakh 15, a lakh 20. That's why people invest in the market. If, on the other hand, you believe that the market is going down, that you're not going to get returns, you'll put the money into a deposit, into something that gives you a guaranteed return. So the problem with the market and the problem with foreign investment is the same. It's pessimism. People are not optimistic about the Indian economy. Rational expectations, as Keynes called them, suggest that things are not going to get better. That's actually the key to what is happening. Because people have a lack of confidence, because measures that should have been taken to increase foreign investment in both sectors, to increase domestic investment, to make people feel more confident, to make them feel optimistic about the economy, have not been taken, we are now at the edge of a precipice. I don't think the crisis is here yet, but I think the Prime Minister is right. There is reason for cutting back. What does all that tell us? Well, it tells us that things may sometimes be confusing because when the economy is not doing well, when people are gloomy about the future, they usually manifest it by turning against the government. Governments become unpopular, people blame them for what's happening. And yet, that doesn't seem to be happening in India. If you look at the last round of assembly elections, the BJP won big in Assam. And it's done very well, a historic victory in Bengal as well. So, where is the public anger? The Prime Minister appears to be popular. At least whenever he's traveled, he's got great responses. The BJP is winning elections. So, the usual evidence of public anger is not there. It could be, and many people say this, that the anger, the dissatisfaction, the gloom has not permeated down to everyone in the country. That at the moment it's a middle class phenomenon. If you talk to businessmen, they will tell you that they're disappointed. They will tell you that they're worried. Middle class people will say we pay huge taxes. There's an officer Raj in this country. There's an inspector Raj. The finance minister has allowed officers and civil servants to run the show. They will talk about why they're not investing. But that's just a stratum at the top. Maybe it's not an important stratum, or maybe it is. Because essentially, the middle class was the key to the ascendancy of Mr. Modi and to the BJP victory. People have voted for the BJP for two sets of reasons. One of them, and much has been made about it, is the social issue, whether you call it communal or whatever. But a lot of it has to do with development. People genuinely believe that there would be more growth. Many in the middle class believe that paradise was around the corner, that the economy would boom, that the stock market would keep rising, that India would become a global economic superpower, that America would die to be our friend, that Pakistan would shiver in its boots, that we would be the next China. Now, all of that may still happen, but it sure as hell hasn't happened yet. So I think that's why there's a certain level of dissatisfaction among the middle class. These are the people who had the highest hopes of the government and they haven't got them. One measure of how high their hopes were is that whenever you talk about handouts to the poor, the middle class usually objects. If you go back to the UPA 1, those heady days, there was a loan waiver to farmers and they introduced Narega, which essentially gave people money even for doing nothing, as the middle class said. There was a huge uproar then. Now there's no longer an uproar. Every government survives on freebies, wins elections on the basis of freebies, and the middle class doesn't object. The general view is it's okay to pay people off as long as we prosper, as long as the economy does well. But is the economy doing well? Probably not. The Prime Minister has said that the Iran war is one reason, and he's right. It is one reason. But we'd be kidding ourselves if we said that our problems only began with the aerial strike on Tehran. Our problems began before. And they are partly a consequence of the failure of government and policy planners to see what should have been obvious and to take action then. How have we responded? I think the Prime Minister has been responsible in what he says. I think an age of some kind of austerity is necessary. And by that I mean reasonable austerity, not spending money on useless things, curtailing government expenditure on unproductive issues. But it's become a sort of joke. The government also has backtracked because it feels it spread too much gloom with that Hyderabad speech. And ministers have resorted to these idiotic gimmicks. I am traveling economy class. See, I am into the new age of austerity. And if you travel economy or you travel business, the same amount of fuel is used. But I don't think they understand that. They think that these kind of media gimmicks, they think that social media campaigns will continue to hold the day for them. I don't think they will. I think there is a level of middle class discontentment. And unless something is done now and done quickly, this discontentment will seep downwards. Why is the government not worried? Well, two reasons. One of them, I think, is the electoral successes have given them a feeling of euphoria. The other is the absence of an alternative. It's hard to remember now, but the Congress was the party of liberalization. The Congress was the party of empowering the middle class. Rajiv Gandhi empowered the middle class like nobody before him. Manmohan Singh introduced liberalization. When he became prime minister, he talked about the free market, about removing the shackles of government. And the middle class, initially at least, identified with all of that. But today's Congress is not that kind of party. Under Rahul Gandhi, it's become a party that's very clearly of the left, a party that believes in helping the poor, in helping those in the margins of society, helping minorities. All of this is fair. The Congress has stood for those things. But it's also stood for empowering the middle class, for taking the economy forward with the help of capitalist measures. That's missing now. You don't seem to see any empathy for the middle class or the issues that concern it in the Congress's policies. I think many educated middle class people, when you talk to them, say they're willing to like Rahul Gandhi. But the problem is they're not sure that Rahul likes them back. He doesn't seem concerned at all. So as long as you don't have a center stroke right alternative to the BJP, and your only alternative is a left wing party of minorities that caters only to the poor, the middle class doesn't really have an alternative. It ends up voting for the BJP time and time again. The BJP knows this. That's one reason why, despite the worried note the Prime Minister struck in Hyderabad, it's not really concerned about making the policy changes that are needed. It's not concerned with economic reforms. It believes that as long as it continues to win elections, it's fine. And perhaps it is, but for how long? I think we are now at a situation where if the government doesn't realize that the rupee is by itself not a big deal, where its fall is a symptom of something bigger, that the lack of confidence in India among Indians and foreigners could potentially have devastating consequences. Unless the government realizes this and takes steps, we could be in for a lot of trouble.